Hi everyone and welcome to my channel and to this time-lapse version of a very pretty bumblebee on a beautiful purple coloured flower. I hope that you enjoy seeing the speedy time-lapse version of this here. There is a longer tutorial series from this piece on my Patreon channel if you'd like to paint this along with me. But I hope that you enjoy this here and please do subscribe to me here on YouTube. This little painting was created as a demo for the Artist magazine, and if you're interested in getting a copy of the magazine, I'll add a link in the description below. This one is in the April 2023 edition, and I've had 3 lovely articles printed in this magazine over the last 3 months, and if you're interested in any of those, you'll find where you can purchase them in the links in my description. And also each one has a video demonstration as well. So it's one of my paint along demos where I design the demo specifically so that you can easily work along with me. So if you access the full tutorial on my Patreon channel, you'll get access to the full color list that I've used, all the materials that you would need, as well as the high resolution download of the photo reference. And then you can expect real-time footage with my guidance all the way through. But I was really excited to paint this one because I don't paint many flowers. And I love painting wildlife. I have painted one bee before. You'll find my carpenter bee demonstration here on my YouTube channel for free. So if you fancy having a go at a bee, you have access here on my YouTube channel already to a free demo of that. But the classic bumblebee always makes a really beautiful image, I think. And with the beautiful, vibrant yellow stripes on the bee that will come later, I thought it would contrast really nicely with all of these purple petals. Now, of course, I had a fantastic photo reference to work from. Normally, I like to take my own photo references, but when I got this request for a bumblebee demo, I didn't have much luck last year getting any really good photo references of a bumblebee to work from. And that's one thing you should always be really fussy about, the quality of the photo reference that you choose to paint. That's not to say that you can't create a wonderful painting from a poor quality photo. But sometimes when you're really relying on the composition within the photo reference to filter through and be successful in your painting, it's good to start with a good image. And in this case, I enlisted the help of a friend and photographer who was very kind, and she let me use this photo reference. And that's just something that I'll quickly mention in this video too. Always be careful that if you're looking for inspiration online in terms of photo references to paint, make sure that you're choosing either royalty-free images or that you get in contact with the photographer. Always ask their permission. And if someone doesn't want you to paint their image, then always respect that. There are so many images on the internet. We have so much access to good photo reference these days. There's really no excuse to infringe anyone's copyright these days. There's so much choice. So always get in contact with the photographer. If you can't find the name of a photographer for a certain image, if you can't make contact with someone, then I would advise to just not paint that image. You're better to keep yourself right in terms of copyright. And if that's something that you'd like to hear more about, I do have a full video here giving artists guidance on copyright. But back to this painting, and I also wanted to mention some of the pastels that I'm using in this piece. So I used a lot of unison pastels, although I have been branching out into other brands of pastel, especially for certain colours within my range. So for pinks and purples especially, I have all sorts of different brand names. This one that you can see on screen now is actually an Henri Rocher. And it's a very unusual lilac pink colour that I just couldn't seem to find in any other of the brands. I'm also making use of a couple of Terry Ludwig's. The big purple stick that you see me picking up a lot is Mount Vision. I've mentioned the Henri Rocher. I have a Blue Earth pastel in here. So this piece is actually quite the mixture of different brands of pastel. But I always advise as well that you don't necessarily have to have all the exact same colours as me when you're working along with me. I give you the full colour list, what the colours look like, and also what their code names are. So if you do want to go and purchase one of the colours I'm using, you can, because I'll give you the code name. But I also give you what the colours look like on the colour list so that you can look through your own selection of pastels and maybe be able to pick out something as a substitution. So don't be afraid to substitute colours for just something close in your own range. But pinks and purples are something that I've always struggled with a little bit. So in the last year, I have been building up a bigger collection of those from different brands. And it's also just nice to mix things up a little bit and test out all of the different brands. So I'm finally on to the bee. I put a lot of black down on the base layer, leaving the gaps for the wings and the yellow stripes. And I feel like I had two main challenges in this piece. One was to try and capture the light and shade, and you can see how effective the light and shade looks as it comes across the petals. But there's also a depth to the photo where we have some distance blur behind the bee and then more crisp detail around the base of the bee and those foreground petals. So even though this is like a really macro view of something that in reality is very small, we have this huge sense of depth within this one image. And I really wanted to capture that. So you can see how much softer the edges are of the petals just to the left of the bee, as those are sitting behind. And then I've got more crisp edges on the foreground petals. So there's a lot that can be done with soft pastel in terms of how much you blend, how much you soften the effect. And then you can also get really crisp detail as well. So the fun part's now adding some little details on the bee and picking out a bit of light on the wings. So I hope that many of you will go and paint this along with me. The tutorial series gives you every second of this piece in real time. And you've got my narration all the way through, talking about colour choices, explaining the types of marks I'm making, how much pressure I'm applying when I blend, all that sort of thing. And I hope that if some of you do decide to paint this along with me, and if you post it online, it would be great if you could tag me in it and let me see how yours comes out. I'm using Fisher 400 paper for this piece. And that's not a paper that I use all the time, but I am growing quite fond of it recently. If you saw my recent Fennec Fox, this piece was also on Fisher 400. And my other Carpenter Bee, the demo that I mentioned that's here on YouTube, this was also on Fisher 400. So I've used it a small number of times now and I'm really starting to like it. It's a more textured, rough surface in comparison to Pastel Matte. And of course the velour paper that I often use is really soft and fuzzy in comparison to this. So the Fisher 400 feels more like UArt paper or one of the other sanded surfaces. Feels a little bit like a finer grit sandpaper, really. And it holds the pastel really nicely. I don't find it too slippy when I blend colours together. I can create very crisp, detailed things. I can also blend and soften effects. So I'm pretty impressed with this paper. I think it will be one that I use in the future. One of the things that I like most about it is how vibrant the colours seem to look on this paper. Your paper choice can make a big difference in how your finished work looks. And I've been trying a lot of different papers over the last year or two. I would definitely put this one in my top 4, possibly top 3. And if you'd like to see more about my paper experiments, I also have some pretty in-depth paper comparisons here on YouTube. That's something that I've been spending a lot of time on, experimenting with my own work, and then sharing those findings on here through my videos, as I think that sort of information can save you a lot of money when you're just starting out in a medium. It's great to hear what other people think of materials if you're just starting out. And of course, everyone's work is different and everyone will like different materials for different reasons. But I hope that my videos can at least give you a better idea and point you in the right direction without spending a fortune trying everything. So I hope that you've enjoyed seeing this time-lapse version here and that you'll consider joining me over on Patreon if you'd like to access the full tutorial. And I also have my full catalogue of tutorials available for you to browse before you join up at my website, emmacolbertart.com/tutorials. But thanks very much for watching this here, and until next time, happy pasteling.